Hello, fellow readers and booktubers. I'd like to respond to an original tag created by Hannah and Hannah Books, and the tag is the Reading Shifts tag. And Hannah wrote, join me for an original tag about the ways our reading changes over time. And the prompts or her tag questions are these. How has your reading developed over your lifetime? Do the kinds of books that bring you the most pleasure now differ from the books you loved most earlier in your life? If you've seen big changes in your reading since you've matured, what might explain your changing interests? Yes, I've noticed tremendous change over time. I really enjoyed science fiction, mystery stories, books that were parts of a series, that kind of thing. And I don't really read much of that anymore, and I haven't in 20, maybe 30 years now. A lot of it has to do with going back to school and to graduate school, studying history. And, when you study history, it's not just the events from the past. You also have to read philosophy and books on sociology and anthropology and books on the arts and poetry, and it's the whole gamut. And in time, I wouldn't say that my taste in books has matured. I think I just want more from what I read now. Occasionally, I still like the occasional science fiction book, although not nearly as much as I used to. I recently read The Buffalo Hunter, which was a horror story about vampires. I found it entertaining. I did do a video on it. I think I summed it up by saying it was quite grisly. But these are books that are they're mildly entertaining, and you can read them quickly. But ever since going through the experience of graduate school, since that time, my reading has become a little more serious. I find reading about ancient history and medieval history to be very entertaining. The entertainment value is still there, but what entertains me now is different from what entertained me, say, 40 years ago. So yes, my reading interests have changed quite a bit, and I think it just has to do with how my curiosity about the real world has expanded and grown much deeper. The second question, do you find yourself choosing different kinds of books at different periods of the year? For example, do the seasons affect what you read for pleasure? Similarly, might you read very different kinds of books while on vacation? Not necessarily in terms of the seasons, but yes, when I'm on vacation, I have a tendency to usually read fiction, light fiction, because I'm on vacation. I want to see the sights. I want to get out and do things. And so when I read at that time, it's usually as I'm winding down at the end of the day, or as I'm on the airplane on the way to a destination, just kind of to distract me until I get there. And then the third question, do specific experiences in your life ever shape what you choose to read? For example, did you read obsessively about child rearing when your kids were little, about gardening as spring is about to begin, or about the experience of grief when someone you loved died, etc.? Yes, especially when I've experienced an event that seems to demand an explanation, or at least an explanation from me, largely the death of a loved one. I've experienced some of that in the past few years, and I want to know what's that about, or at least it's nice to know that other people have experienced similar things, so there's somebody out there that can empathize with what you're going through at the time. Also, events like the collapse of a democracy or the implosion of a nation. I want to read books about politics so I can understand exactly what's happening there. There was a time, if I was going through a very troubling experience, religious books of theology in particular, used to help quite a bit. They still do to a certain extent, but mostly philosophy these days, especially the great works of antiquity, will help a lot. Question number 4, have there been any times in your life when circumstances have limited or changed your reading in some way? Perhaps caretaking responsibilities or a big move that made it hard to find as much time to read as you'd like, or personal illness that made it harder to concentrate, or maybe just long-term travel that might have limited your book choices. How do you deal with those circumstances? There have been times when I couldn't find quite as much time as I like to read, but usually, there have been a few moments when I would go a day or two without reading, and it was almost like a physical impact that it would have, like withdrawal symptoms. So if something's going on, I'll find some moment just to carve out, if maybe just a half an hour, to sit down with a book, even if it means I have to wait till late at night, or if I have to get up in the middle of the night or before the sun rises, just so I can have those few minutes. It's a need. It's almost like an addiction. But I do understand, illness and these things do kind of intrude. They absolutely intrude. Even depression can affect reading. But it's just some strange need that I have that I can't let that go for too long. So I'll go to whatever extreme I need to go to find at least a few moments to sit down with a book. Question 5. BookTube is full of discussions of reading slumps, when dedicated readers seem to lose interest for a while in books. Sometimes they just can't find a book that appeals to them. Have you ever experienced a slump? If so, how did you handle it? If not, do you have any advice to give people who are experiencing slumps? Oh yes, I experienced a slump not too long ago. I mentioned it on some of my videos. What causes it, I'm not sure. Maybe kind of a free-floating depression. Or maybe it's just, you just need to sit back for a few minutes. You need to distance yourself. You need to catch your breath. I think sometimes on BookTube, I'm as guilty of this as anybody, but there's this sense that you have to keep reading, make sure you stack up those books so you have something to talk about. And it just gets exhausting. It's like you're running a marathon, and the joy of reading kind of bleeds away when that happens, and you just want to sit for a while and maybe stare out the window, or even worse, look at television or something like that. You just need to take that break. How do you get out of that kind of thing? I really think it's just time. Give it time. The feeling passes. If you're a true reader, and as I think all of us are, it's something in our genetic code. It lies dormant for whatever reason, but it's only dormant, and it's only for a time. It will come back. Sometimes a particular book will do it. For me, it was this book, The Uncommon Reader by Alan Bennett. I noticed a number of people on BookTube had been talking about this book. It's a novel. It's a work of fiction. It's a novella, very short. Actually, it's a short story. It's hysterically funny. I don't want to give you any spoilers, but it's a wonderful book, and it's about the impact of reading, the joy of reading, and how powerful that can be. And you can read this book in a single sitting, which I did, and it was just enough to pull me out of that slump. And so I've been back in my usual routine. But I think that the slump is a real thing, and I think it's a passing thing. It really is. Just remind yourself of that. You wake up some morning, you just can't read another book. Just let that little still voice in the back of your head that is saying, "Oh yes, you will. You'll be back." Just believe that, because you will be back. You'll get over it. You really do. Booktubers also talk about book hangovers, when readers are so moved by a book that they find it difficult to move on to a new book. Have you ever felt this way? Yep, absolutely, I have. Sometimes when I finish a book, I have to give it 24 hours, or if I finish the book in the evening, I have to wait till the next afternoon to start another book. I know some people that they'll finish one book, they'll put it down and pick up the next one. I need to take that breath. So yeah, the book hangover. Yes, I've often felt that way. Tell us about a few books that almost always worked for you, something that might have remained a favorite throughout your life despite any changing reading tastes, something that always seems to hit just the right spot when you need a lift, or perhaps some lifetime book hangover where the text will always be at the back of your mind. Yes. Shakespeare always works for me. And it's not just the man's genius or his wonderful insights into the human condition. It's because reading Shakespeare brings back memories of when I was first introduced to Shakespeare. I was a freshman in high school, maybe a sophomore. And I had always heard of Shakespeare. I was a bit intimidated. I thought this would be a very difficult class to take. The teacher was wonderful. And it was just a time in my life when I was very young. The future looked bright. It was wide open, endless possibilities. And I felt quite secure. My life seemed quite secure, and I was a very happy kid. And reading Shakespeare reminds me of that time. So for me, Shakespeare always works for me at two levels. I like his genius, I like his insights into the human condition, but I also like the memories that reading Shakespeare stirs in my own personal life. Also, any of the great works of antiquity, particularly the Greeks and the Romans, there's something there. There's something eternal in those writings. To read the Greek and the Roman writers from antiquity, it's like you're going to a well that never runs dry. If we must, if we're going to embrace the claim that the Bible was divinely inspired, then I think we also have to make the claim, that same claim, for Thucydides and Herodotus and Sophocles and Euripides and Tacitus and Pliny the Younger and Cicero and Livy and Caesar. There's something there in those works that always works for me. Yes, to read the giants of antiquity, you are resting on the shoulders of giants, and the advantage there is that you get to see a lot further than most. Anyway, that's it. Oh, number 8, of course, tag people, which I will do. So that's what I've got for you today. Keep reading and stay strong.